Just weeks after setting myself the career goal of one day driving a Ferrari 250 of any kind, an email arrives. Would I like to visit Ferrari specialist GTO Engineering, it asks, and drive what it believes to be the ultimate interpretation of the 250 short wheelbase? Yes, I reply immediately. But before that glorious Colombo-designed V12 engine is fired into life, there are a few things to explain. Most importantly, this is a newly built car. It isn't one of the original 150-odd short wheelbases built by Ferrari in the 60s, but is instead a so-called toolroom copy. Built to a near identical specification to the original, GTO Engineering calls it the 250 short wheelbase Revival. Buyers can ask for a larger engine, uprated brakes, a USB port and even air conditioning, although on this sweltering day it wasn't quite up to the job. I apologise now for my appearance. Enough preamble. Here's a slightly rough and ready video of my few hours with automotive royalty, and yes, the forward-facing camera is a bit low, sorry about that.
So introduced in 1959, the Ferrari 250 short wheelbase was the perfect car for driving on the road during the week and then on the racetrack at the weekends. In fact, in 1960, in its debut racing year, it came first, second, third and fourth in its class at Le Mans. And the leading car in its class came fourth overall. Shortly after that, later in 1960, Sterling Moss, none other, drove this car, or a 250 short wheelbase, at the Goodwood TT and won. He said he won so comfortably that he was listening to the local radio station and listening to the commentary of the race that he was taking part in. The following year, 1961, was another successful year at Le Mans for the 250 short wheelbase. It won its class, but not only that, it came third overall. So it shared the podium, a road-going car shared the podium with two purpose-built Le Mans prototypes. The 250 short wheelbase really is automotive royalty, and of course what followed was the 250 GTO, which is arguably the most desirable car of all time and certainly the most expensive on the auction scene today. But this isn't a 250 short wheelbase as we know it. This is a car built by GTO Engineering, and it's a recreation, a replica, whatever you want to call it. It's based on a Ferrari of a similar vintage. It's up to you which one. The 330 is quite popular, but it's up to you. And then everything is built in-house. This is an aluminium bodied sort of semi-competition spec, and it's got a new 3-litre V12 Colombo engine, the trademark of Ferraris of the time. And my god, this thing is absolutely extraordinary. Do excuse the cushioning, the seat doesn't adjust and I'm not tall. There's quite an embarrassing amount of padding behind me, but I don't care because it means I get to enjoy this. I hope you can hear me, it's bloody loud in here. And it's sort of an everyday 250 short wheelbase, if you like. It's got air conditioning that's just about keeping up with the heat wave we're experiencing at the moment, but it is still pretty hands-on. There's a gear in there somewhere. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but unlike the original car, it's got a 3.5 litre engine up from 3 litres, and it's got a 5-speed gearbox instead of 4. And the important thing to note, yes, it's not a real 250 short wheelbase. The important thing to note is, it isn't appreciating astronomically like real 250 short wheelbases are. Those cars have become so expensive and so valuable that the owners don't want to drive them anymore, and they're appreciating. You can't put miles on them. Some owners even take the original engine out and buy one from GTO Engineering so as to protect the original. This doesn't have any of those problems. You get in it, you drive, it doesn't matter. Putting miles on it doesn't matter. I dreamed of driving cars like this as a kid. Just little details like the stainless steel gear knob, the wooden steering wheel. Little things I picked up on as a child and fantasized about one day interacting with. I've actually got a Scalextric model of this car, and it was my favourite as a kid. Never in my wildest I think I'd be driving even something similar to what that scale electric car represented. Cars like these, they take you back to the fundamentals of driving. They make driving an experience and something you have to think about and concentrate on and enjoy and get pleasure from doing. It's not just about going from A to B. I've been thinking about this car a lot after I was invited to drive it about a month ago. And I've been wondering, what it stands for. Is it the right thing to do to make a car that isn't quite what it seems? And my worry is that it might only happen once, but you're going to be at the petrol station and someone is going to say, oh, that's a 250 short wheelbase. And then it's up to you to say yes or no.
Okay, yes, if you're refuelling in Chichester on Good Revival weekend, then that particular scenario might well arise. But for 99% of the time, the car's pedigree and age should be of zero interest to the driver. Truth be told, after just a couple of miles in GTO's short wheelbase Revival, I couldn't give a damn about its heritage.
I don't care if it's not a legitimate short wheelbase. I really don't. And it's making everyone's day. I've just driven through Henley and people are looking and smiling and no one thinks you're a bit of an arse for driving around in a £500,000 Ferrari. Whereas I think they would if you were in a new one, if you're in a Pista or something, or an A12 Superfast in bright red. I think people would think something of you, not necessarily positive thoughts. Back in the 60s, Enzo would say that aerodynamics were for people who couldn't build engines properly. Well, of course we've learned that that's not quite true, but yeah, at the time he wasn't wrong, was he? I mean, I've known for almost as long as I've been reading about cars that the Colombo V12 is an absolute peach, and yeah, it is, isn't it?
Right, enough of me talking. I'm going to be quiet now and let you enjoy that engine for a couple of minutes.
Sometimes I feel a little bit embarrassed about liking cars. I try to turn the conversation away if I'm with friends. I don't really dwell on it for too long because I feel like I'm just a bit of a nerd. And even without the environmental impact the car has undoubtedly had, I'm just a bit hesitant to really indulge in my passion, because I don't think other people would find it as interesting. But, oh, I just need to show someone this. I need to transplant the feelings I'm having driving this car and just give them to someone. If they say, oh, why do you like cars? What is it about cars? Just experience this and remind yourself what cars can be, what cars were. And I'm so glad that things like that exist, things like this exist. It'd be too easy for collectors to hide these things away because they're too valuable, like a work of art hidden in a vault. I was wondering last night what Enzo Ferrari would think of this. Would he hate it? Would he say it's plagiarism? I'm not so sure. I think he'd be more annoyed at people squirreling their cars away and not using them because they're too precious and too valuable. He built cars to be driven and to be enjoyed and to be raced. And that's what this is.
Like a modern-day orchestra playing Mozart, Beethoven or Elgar, GTO Engineering is working from the original manuscript but playing with modern instruments, or in this case using modern tools. The 250 short wheelbase Revival is a celebration of one of the greatest cars of all time, and certainly one of the most beautiful. And besides, if a lack of age and pedigree makes it more affordable by a factor of 10, more likely to put a smile on the face of everyone it drives past, and more likely to be raced on track instead of hidden away like a piece of art, then that can be no bad thing.